Penguin Random House Audio presents The Unsettled, a novel by Ayana Mathis, read for you by Bonnie Turpin. For my mother. Who can sleep when she, hundreds of miles away, I feel that vast breath fan her restless decks? Cicatrice by cicatrice, all the links rattle once. Here we go, mother, on the shipless ocean. Pity us, pity the ocean. Here we go. Anne Carson, Sleep Chains. How long will you be gone? And when will you return? Nehemiah, chapter 2, verse 6. Prologue. Toussaint Wright stepped onto Ephraim Avenue with a backpack slung over his shoulder and a bleeding cut on his cheek. He was 13 years old. 2 years before, a fire had consumed 248 Ephraim Avenue, where Toussaint used to live. The fire destroyed most everything he loved. Nothing remained but a few girders inside the charred hull of the house and a scorched old oak tree out front. Toussaint had passed through many homes since then, group homes and foster homes, the rectory of a pastor he knew, but he always busted out of them. Now he stood a long time on Ephraim, watching browned leaves falling from the oak. The gutter pipe on 248 came loose and bent with a metallic shriek that sent a flock of sparrows flying off into the night. Toussaint had not eaten in 2 days. He had run most of the way, stopping to catch his breath behind parked cars or in alleys. His heart was beating too fast. His blood ran like water. He touched his hand to the cut on his cheek and felt something small and hard protruding. Glass. Earlier, in another part of the city, some boys who hung around the same corner Toussaint had been hanging around had asked him a couple of questions. Why you always alone and why you don't never talk? You ain't got no mama? Or a grandmama or something? The answers to these questions were unbearable. Sometimes grief came on him like a sweeping numbness, up from his toes and along his neck so he couldn't swallow. Other times it was a column of rage rising along his spine. In answer to the boy's questions, he picked up a brick. He picked up a brick and threw it through the glass window of an abandoned storefront on the corner. He ran. On Ephraim Avenue, he stomped his feet to warm himself. His sneakers thudded against the asphalt. The sound rang in the cold, empty air, so he stomped again, harder this time. The block was all shadows, as though the night was more night there than anywhere else. He pried off a piece of plywood nailed over the doorway of 248. This took the last of his strength. He ducked through the opening he'd made and entered the house. Yo! Yo, yo, he called, just to hear his voice echo down the hallway. Toussaint settled in the warmest corner with a blanket, a sandwich he'd taken off a passed-out drunk, and a sheaf of letters from his mother, who wrote to him every week from Holmesburg Prison, even though he couldn't stand to go and see her. He had letters from his grandmother, too. Her name was Duchess. She lived in a place called Bonaparte, in Alabama. He was on his way there. He was really going this time. Toussaint fell into a jerky, shivering sleep and dreamed of throwing the brick through the window all over again. Filaments of glass caught in the streetlight glowed as they fell. The glass rain sparkled like tinsel. 1985. Philadelphia. Cherry Street. It tinseled down on Ava Carson, clutching her 2 suitcases in front of the Cherry Street Intake Center for the Homeless. Ava cried out and dropped her bags. The latches unlatched when they hit the pavement, and the suitcases popped their guts like a melon thrown from a great height. Visions are not real, or they aren't real yet, but they do terrify. "Toussaint!" Ava called out. He was standing right behind her, just as he had been before the vision struck. A little boy of 10, small for his age, with both hands around the handle of his own suitcase. There they were, on a late August morning, mother and son, with 3 cases between them and a black trash bag bulging with their belongings. "What were you doing on that street? Why did you—" Ava paused. She was shrieking, she realized. "No," she said. "Nothing." She had never heard of Ephraim Avenue. Hallucinations. This is the sort of thing that happens when you haven't slept for days and you're so exhausted that your vision goes black at the sides where the peripheral ought to be. Ava got to her knees and scrabbled at the things on the ground. Pajamas and her silk top with the tie at the collar, and a couple of nice skirts she had managed to pack, Toussaint's good Buster Brown school shoes, and his sequined Michael Jackson glove, a few Avengers comic books. She stuffed them back into the suitcase fast as she could, only they wouldn't fit like they had before. "Ma, you have to fold them, Ma. They're just falling out again." Brisk feet stepped around them. A pair of scuffed black lace-up shoes stopped next to one of the suitcases. A woman's head lowered into view. "You need some help, miss?" she said. Ava shook her head. "Let me help you." Her hands swung down and hovered over Ava's things, cracked palms, ashy knuckles, dirt under the nails. "No!" Ava said. "I mean, that's all right." The woman said. Her heel went down on a pair of slacks as she walked away. Inside, Cherry Street smelled of sweat and stale junk food and hair. The waiting room was big like the DMV, with rows of plastic chairs bolted to the floor. The man at intake kept calling Ava and Toussaint up to the window to ask a single question. "Names? All right, sit down. ID? Okay, take a seat." It was grim, but it was busy. The people working there had an urgency about them, like they were fixing things, phones pressed to their ears and their desks piled with folders. In the corner of the waiting room, a skinny lady rubbed Vaseline on her kid's elbows like her life depended on it. That was a comforting sight. One monkey don't stop no show, like the saying goes. Ava squeezed Toussaint's hand. "Maybe we won't have to wait too long," she said. But they did wait. An hour passed, then 2. Afternoon came, or Ava guessed it was afternoon, because the sun turned white and the room was broiling. The intake man called them up again to give Ava a stack of forms attached to a clipboard. When they turned back to their seats, a go-ahead-say-something kind of woman was sitting there, next to a kid with his arm deep in a bag of Doritos. Not a free chair left in the place. There wasn't anywhere to be but leaned up against the wall with their bags at their feet. The thick air pressed on Ava's chest and stomach till she heaved a gob of sick into a used wad of tissues she picked up from the floor. A woman sitting at the end of a nearby row frowned and looked away. Who is going to help? Ava thought. If there's nobody here but these women and their kids, all of them poor as cracks in the floor. People who ain't got nothing can't do nothing, like her mother used to say. "Ma, you want me to hold it?" Toussaint asked. Ava couldn't balance the clipboard against the wall, and the papers kept slipping to the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?